Hey guys and welcome. Today we are going to be covering up this painting with a surrealism painting. I'll talk a little bit more about that after we get started. Here's a little bit of ASMR from outside. So starting off, I know that I didn't show you the finished background, and that's because I ended up painting over that one more time. It didn't quite get the coverage that I wanted, so you'll see, bits and pieces of it until I zoom out to show you guys the whole thing. So I was inspired by Lockery Fine Arts. I watch her a ton on YouTube. I love watching her um, live streams and how she paints, and it's just so inspiring. So I wanted to take a little piece out of her book, and so I decided to start this piece. And I covered up the duck because I wasn't really jazzed about it anyway, but it had actually been sitting for about 2 years, exactly the way that you guys saw it. So if in 2 years I wasn't going to do it, there was no point in me keeping it there, and especially when I was feeling inspired from somebody else anyway. So I wanted to do this as a whole video sped through, but then I felt like it wasn't going to do it justice because this is the biggest piece of art that I've ever done. And this is on a 24 by 36 canvas, and I've never really painted anything this big before. I've never even really drew anything this big before. So I actually started out in my sketchbook, got the sketch the way that I wanted it to look, minus like the finer details and that kind of stuff. And then I scanned it into my computer. I tried using Photoshop to get it to print like a poster size. Didn't end up working though. So I went on to Microsoft Word and printed it out as a poster with 16 pieces, just hoping that it would fit. And it honestly fit really good. So that was, and then I went through and I had to tape everything together and draw on the back with some pastels to get the image to transfer over. But I do still have like the larger image because it didn't transfer over really well. And you can see here, like I'm painting in my living room on the floor because the small room that I use for like where all my art stuff is, there's nowhere to put a canvas this big. And that might have been part of the reason that I was avoiding sitting there doing the duck, because I was also doing that one on the floor. No, I don't have an art easel. Yes, I have a table, but it's not big enough to set this up on and paint at the same time. So the floor is my best option for now. And that's probably why, I got really awkward camera angles here, and it is what it is. We're going to enjoy this process anyway. So I have decided through painting, because a lot of times I can get like a general idea of what I want to do. And then as I'm going into like the finer details, or as I'm painting, I'm looking and I'm going, wow, what would look really good? So I'm thinking that what we're going to do is have, because I live in Michigan, I was thinking about doing Michigan perennials throughout these twisty trees. And then near the bottom doing nothing but rocks and sand, and having like succulents and cacti and all of this stuff coming out from the rocks, but then near the top it's getting that nice flourish look. I also want to hear from you guys what you would like to see me paint as the animal. My options I will lay out in a poll as well. I don't ever really seem to get like a lot of interaction on that kind of stuff, so I'm hoping that you guys can kind of help me choose. I was thinking either a black bear, a fox, or a raccoon, or I'll even take some suggestions from you guys. I'll put another option there that you can hit and leave a comment, and then you can just like or thumbs up the comments that you guys want to see. It does not have to match like a desert or a woodsy theme. Just any animal you would like to see me put on that big center rock. And this is just because I was inspired originally from a raccoon that I had done a few weeks ago. And I was sitting there and I was like, yeah, I would really like to do like a bigger painting, and then never did it. I am in a zone of trying to work on myself. I've been working out a lot more and trying to eat healthier. So it's been a lot for me. A big lifestyle change within the last like 2 months. So with this, it's just kind of whenever I find the time to do it. And then I don't think it was a live stream. I think it was just art tips from Lackery Fine Arts. And it was just so awe-inspiring of what she was able to accomplish. And so I took that and I was like, you know what? I want to do something but bigger. So the next morning I ended up sitting down with my sketchbook and sketching this out and then getting it transferred, blocking everything in, and then here you can see me, I'm adding in lights and light areas and dark areas, and I'm just kind of mapping out how I want the tree to look. And then I'm going to go back in, I'm going to get that really deep detail. I do a lot of this off camera as well, so I'll be sure to give you guys like a really good like after this video of where I'm at, just because I don't make it overly far before I start working on like the bigger tree. And then off camera I ended up finishing the smaller tree that I'm working on now. And when I say finishing, I mean I added in the lights and the darks, and then darken the darks and lighten the lights. And I'm going to be going back through and adding in flowers and moss, and I'm hoping if I get my vision correct, this will be really detailed and really pretty without it taking forever. So this video I ended up cutting down from about 4 hours and speeding up by, I think it was like 600 or 700%. So it was originally a 4-hour long video that I've taken down to around 16 minutes, but that doesn't include me finishing off the small twisty tree either, because I did that off camera. So I'm looking at about, I would say, 6 hours, and you guys are getting just to view just the smallest part of it. And I wish that I could sit through the entire thing with you at slow speed, so that way you guys could see how long and how much care and effort you have to take to put into something like this. And especially with this being a huge piece for me, you know, I really want to take my time and make sure I'm getting the details. And I'm not using any reference photos. This is just strictly from my noggin. So, you know, getting the lights and the darks, I'm like, okay, where would the sun be hitting, and where wouldn't it be hitting? And I just slowly but surely filled in the darker areas. And I also like to mix colors on the canvas itself. So when doing darker areas, I would put in a really dark line, and then I would just get my brush a little wet and dry it off just a smidge, just not enough for a paper towel, like tapped it. And then I would hit that already wet spot and drag the color down to get the gradual shading out. I don't really work well trying to mix colors on my palette and then using it in my painting. I tend to mix colors on the canvas itself. And you can see here that it looks really red, but in person it's actually like a lightish reddish brown. I couldn't really get the camera to pick up the proper colors, and I don't know if that's because I was just using my overhead light instead of using, like, I normally have like a ring light and have the window open to let in the natural light. So I was using, I believe it was burnt sienna, which is like a reddish brown, and then I was lightening it with whites, darkening it with blacks. I was adding in yellows, and then I was using a darker brown. It was burnt something or other, but it wasn't burnt sienna, but it was the darkest part. And then I also added in black with that to get the even richer, darker areas. And those are not straight black. It is mixed in heavily with the brown that I was using. I'll have to look and see what I was using. And I will list those colors down below. But I'm really hoping that once I start adding in the detail, the background will make a little bit more sense. Because as I look at it, I wasn't really jazzed with the background before I started painting. And then after I started painting the details with the trees, it started looking better. And then I told myself, I was like, a lot of it's going to be covered up by either an animal or flowers or whatever. And just to see what it looks like before I get too critical of the background. So let me know what you guys think about that too, just because I know a lot more is going to be covered up than what's going to be showing, especially when I start adding in, the flowers and the cactuses and, the animal right in the middle. You're not going to see a majority of that darker swirl in the middle. And to me, that's just, it's one little thing that I might not be happy with now, but I could definitely be happy with when it's done. I was kind of wanting to have like the directional paint. So that's the reason I did it that way. And I was drawing in the blues and the greens into like the rocks. And then I'm going to be using the same green for the mosses, and the flowers are going to have their stems and stuff. So it will be tied in better once I get, going and moving on it. But I want you guys to bear with me because this is going to be a slow process. My videos are not going to be out every week like I have been. And it's because I am taking as much time as I can to create this piece. And I don't really have all the time in the world to do it either. So I want to put my best work out there for you guys and also take my time. So I don't really, I feel pressured to get a video out once a week. And then when I wasn't able to do it these last 2 weeks because this was taking me so long, it kind of made me feel bad. Because I had set the goal for myself to have a video up once a week, and then I didn't end up being able to accomplish that. But I am also taking on a much bigger task than I have before, and so I'm really hoping that it pays off. And I want to know what you guys think of it as it stands now. And I mean, I'm excited because in my mind, I know what I'm picturing. And I would like nothing more than to like be able to show you guys what's going on in my brain, to show you what I'm thinking, because it's such a slow process. And having you guys on this journey with me means a lot, because I know there's not many of you, but just knowing that there's some of you who actually enjoy watching me paint and listening to me ramble on, it means a lot. So I will see you guys next time. Enjoy this last little bit of this painting, and I will be sure to give you a look at what I have accomplished by the end of this video.